Welcome to Growth Investing Mastery. Today we're going to look at the company Reddit with symbol RDDT. It's a fast-growing social media company. As a reminder, this is not investment advice or recommendations to buy any stocks. Let's take a look at Reddit's numbers or financials. And revenue has a really impressive trend. 1 year ago, revenue was 250 million, and in the latest quarter, revenue was 428 million. That's a 71% increase year over year. And if we look at the revenue year over year growth rate, it's been accelerating. Looking back 5 quarters, it was up 25% year over year, and then went to 48% year over year, 54%, 68%, and then 71% year over year. When we take a look at profitability metrics such as EBITDA and net income, there's an impressive trend as well. In the latest quarter, Reddit had 57 million of GAAP EBITDA and 71 million of net income. We can see in the prior quarter to this one that Reddit had only 11 million of EBITDA and 30 million of net income. So it's a quite impressive acceleration going quarter over quarter. When we look back 3 quarters, we do see there's these huge losses on EBITDA and net income, and that's related to the IPO. So there's costs associated with the IPO, and then there's stock-based compensation, which has been building up and being paid out, and they put that all into 1 quarter. So that number may look a little bit deceiving at first, that they might have had these huge losses, but it's all related to the IPO. Reddit is a social media company for community, and they call them subreddits, which are different topics, and each subreddit has their own moderators. The CEO of Reddit, Steve Hoffman, has mentioned there's different types of users and different types of use cases. There's what he calls seekers, who are people who may go to Google and look for one specific answer. And then there's scrollers, and scrollers are people who use the app and they have a feed on the homepage and they use it daily, probably. Typically, most scrollers are logged in users, and the seekers are logged out users. Reddit's a product I'm familiar with myself as I'm a user of Reddit, and I'm probably a hybrid between the seeker and the scroller as I scroll logged out. So I use the iPhone app, but I scroll through the feed and I usually don't log in. Most of the revenue for Reddit comes through ads, but they also have partnerships with companies such as OpenAI, Google, and financial institutions where they sell anonymized data. Reddit was founded in 2005, and they recently IPO'd about a year ago in March of 2024. The headquarters is in San Francisco, and the company has 2,200 employees. They are hiring a little bit. It's up 10% year over year. And on the balance sheet, they have 1.84 billion of cash and debt of 27 million. So cash greatly outweighs the debt. The market cap recently was 23 billion. Now let's take a closer look at Reddit's product. They have a web, iOS or Apple, and Android app. And as I mentioned, there's both logged in and logged out users. Many of the seeker style users come to Reddit through Google and they put Reddit as the search term. This means they know they want to go to Reddit and they're looking to find the individual thread on a specific subreddit, which may address their question. Logged in users are more valuable and monetizable to the business. There's a specific notation for subreddits, which are denoted with a r slash, and users are denoted with u slash. For example, r world news is a world news topic, and u spez is a user, and spez is actually the CEO, and the CEO does post on Reddit. All comments or threads started by a user are public, so you can actually look up everything the CEO has posted before. And I mentioned also anonymized data is being sold to Google, OpenAI, and other businesses. A recent quote from one of the investor conferences talks about their priorities. They say, "Our 4 priorities are to improve the core product, grow the ad business, search, and internationalization." Reddit recently gave an example which shows how it's differentiated from products like Google or Quora, which just provide answers. The company says AI can't try a new hairdryer or listen to headphones and tell you what the experience is like. Reddit reported Q4 2024 numbers on February 12th, and the company had guided for $385 to $400 million of revenue. They actually landed at 428, which is up 71% year over year. The revenue number was a strong beat, and for adjusted EBITDA, the company had guided 110 to 125 million of EBITDA. They landed at 154, which is a very strong beat. For upcoming Q1 2025 guidance, the company guided for 360 to 370 million of revenue, which would be up 52% year over year. And notice this would be down quite a bit sequentially from the 428 million of revenue. The company did mention there's strong seasonality going from Q4 to Q1. Because this was the first year that Reddit was public, I think a lot of analysts were surprised by this guidance and were expecting guidance to be sequentially higher. However, many analysts then realized the company does have a strong seasonality aspect to it. Adjusted EBITDA on Q1 was guided to 80 to 90 million, which would be up 800% year over year. But keep in mind that they were coming off a small base, so that 800% is not as impressive as it sounds. And adjusted EBITDA in the previous quarter, Q4, was 154, so this would again be sequentially down. Let's take a closer look at Reddit's seasonality, since they mentioned this is an important detail of their business. And we can examine past Q4 to Q1 trends. We can see that in 2024, revenue from Q3 of 2023 was 250 million, and in Q1 of 2024, it was 243. So it was down sequentially 7 million. When we go back one more year and look at 2023, it went from 200 million in Q4 of 2022 to 164 million in Q1 of 2023. And the 2022 numbers are going from 177 to 146. And the current projection is going from 428 million in this last quarter to 370 million when they report Q1 of 2025. That is a slight concern of mine that the company is projecting a drop like this going to Q1, especially when we look back at the previous Q4 to Q1 where they had -7 of net new revenue. However, since Reddit's been public, they've been beating their guidance by a significant amount, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on this one, although it's something to keep an eye on. Let's take a look at the story or narrative that Reddit told on their Q4 2024 earnings. They said that machine translation is rolling out to 8 languages. The companies mentioned they're seeing a lot of success with their French translations. And DAU numbers were 102 million, which is up 39% year over year. International growth was up 46% year over year. And logged in users were up 27% year over year. It's impressive to see that revenue is growing much faster than user growth, because revenue came in at 71% growth year over year. So the company is able to grow revenue much faster than they're able to grow user growth. And Reddit recently launched a beta for Reddit Answers, which is an AI tool for getting answers. A user may have a common question, and Reddit's able to search its entire corpus and get back a concise answer to that question. Reddit's been seeing strength in brand advertising, and the top of the funnel is growing the fastest in 3 years, they said. The company calls out leading verticals, which include finance, retail, auto, pharma, gaming, and technology. And international revenue growth grew 77% year over year, which was led by the United Kingdom. Ads and comments were only 3% of impressions in the quarter. Because there's not a lot of ads in the comments yet, I see that as potential upside for the company, where they can add more ads to the comments in the future. And they have a tool called Memorable AI, which was a previous acquisition. They can do AI headline generation for users. There's an LLM powered ad review system, and that makes review time go from 30 minutes down to 1 minute. Impressive efficiency. Automated ad revenue grew by 70%, and the company announced a new partnership with something called the Intercontinental Exchange, which is developing data for the financial industry. Continuing on looking at this earnings report, Reddit reported a number of impressive internal metrics for the business. Gross margin is 92.6%, and adjusted EBITDA margin was 36%. Net income margin was 17%, and operating cash flow landed at 90 million. Free cash flow margin was 21%, and total adjusted costs grew only 21% year over year, while CapEx was stunningly just less than 1 million. The company has very little capital expenditures, and revenue is growing 3 to 5 times as fast as costs, as they say. US grew 70%, while international revenue grew 76%. And this is the first time international revenue has beat US revenue since mid 2023. The company attributes their growth to user growth, improved ad click through rates, ad services like comments, which drove revenue increases, and Reddit Answers is off to a promising start. They gave the example of reliving a series in real time, where a TV show may have played 3 years ago, but you can view comments as if they're in real time. The company mentions that ARPU, or average revenue per user, for the rest of the world has a lot of opportunity, and that's a greenfield area for Reddit. There's improved onboarding as well, so users can now log in with email, phone, or Google or Apple account. A direct quote from the CEO is that we feel very good about the pace we're on in Q1. And that's great to see that the CEO is saying that Q1 looks like it's going to be strong. The cost to translate languages is coming down as LLMs get cheaper, and those translations will get better as well as LLMs and AI tools improve. Reddit was recently at the Morgan Stanley Tech Conference, and they gave a lot of good details there from this conference. They said they're investing in both ad tech and go to market. GAAP profitability is proving the power of the model. And in Q4, Google had some changes which saw some chop, as they called it. However, they had a recovery in Q1, and that primarily affects the seekers or the less valuable users. Reddit was the sixth most searched term in the USA, and that's a really impressive statistic. Over time, users spend more time in communities and more overall time in the app. And at the 5 year mark for a cohort of users, they spend 45 minutes a day in the app, while other platforms see people age out. That means in other social media, people may get tired of it over the years, while in Reddit, they're just using it more. And the company has end-to-end automation now for its ad stack that makes it much easier for advertisers. And 8 of the top 10 verticals are now growing 50% or more year over year. They mention again that comments and ads only makes up 3% of the total inventory of ads, and that can grow over time. The feed is the majority of ads right now. The company has said their TAM is everyone in the world because they can cover every topic, and there may be a lot of room for Reddit to expand into various topics and countries. Reddit's been talking about the success of their initiative to translate their corpus into French, and they have local teams recruiting moderators, French communities, and users who are specifically French. Reddit was also at the Deutsche Bank conference, and they said they're executing better than ever, building more and shipping faster. Chop from Google is to be expected, and the revenue numbers are as strong as ever. One direct quote from the CEO was that internet consumers want what Reddit has. And the CEO did mention the big picture relationship with Google is great, and that they collaborate with them often. However, the least valuable cohort of users comes from Google because these are logged out users or one time users. And there was no revenue movement from the chop, so revenue numbers came in quite strong, even though Google made ads which negatively impacted search results for Reddit. AI powered search results have been online for just 1.5 months. And I mentioned Reddit Answers before, which gets a collection of posts on a topic, and an LLM summarizes the results. There's also Reddit Lite, which they're testing internationally, and is a light version of the app. Reddit mentioned 50% of their users are international, while companies like Twitter have 80% and Facebook has 95% of international users. Eventually, the company expects to get to 80 to 95% of international users. Q4 saw a record number of advertisers, and advertiser growth was also a record. There's additionally smaller data deals that Reddit is making. These include social listening services and financial institutions, which are buying data. Let's talk about some concerns I have for Reddit. And as I've mentioned before, it's always good to look at the bear case for any company you're investing in. One concern I have is that political discussion may come under scrutiny. And recently, the Twitter CEO was upset with Reddit over some comments about himself, and he was able to get one of the subreddits shut down. Reddit also had some issues with censoring the term Luigi, and users responded by posting all these Mario Luigi memes. The moderators and the CEO have gotten into wars before, and there used to be a lot of third party apps that moderators would use. And the issue that came up was Reddit shut down those third party apps, and some of the moderators revolted. However, that issue with the moderators seems to be resolved now. And previously, the CEO did have a bit of a scandal where he was jokingly editing comments in one subreddit, and he got trolled a lot himself. And basically, what he said on one conference was that he's grown up a lot and Reddit's grown up a lot. It used to be a lot more fun and chaos, and now they're becoming a more serious company. And I like that the CEO seems to be humbled by some of the past experiences and is taking things more seriously now. One concern I do have is that management seems hesitant to ramp up on ad space, and they'll mention things like the comments make up 3% of the ad inventory. And I'd kind of like to see them step on the accelerator a bit more to boost revenue. The COO, Jennifer Wong, said that the developer platform is progressing slowly, and that kind of indicated to me that the developer platform may not be going as fast or as smoothly as expected. Lastly, I did mention earlier there's a heavy aspect of seasonality to Reddit, and the guidance they gave for Q1 did seem a little bit weak based off past historical trends. I do think Reddit is sandbagging a bit, but I want to keep my eye on that closely. Let's take a quick look at Reddit's valuation. It's come down quite a bit from its highs. And actually, this screenshot's from a few days ago, so I think the price is a little bit lower now. The run rate price to sales is 13, or probably 12 now with recent decreases in the price. My own take is that Reddit has a attractive valuation right now, as the company is growing revenue at 71%, and the price to sales doesn't seem too high. Now let's summarize our discussion of Reddit. It's a compelling community-based social platform, and the growth rate has accelerated significantly since the IPO. The ad platform drives most of the revenue. There's lots of greenfield ad space on the platform, as the company has been a little bit hesitant to ramp up ad space too fast. And Reddit has a lot of partnerships with companies on data, including companies such as OpenAI and Google. That's in addition to smaller partnerships with financial institutions and other companies. Reddit has a reasonable valuation right now, as the stock price has come down significantly. This concludes our discussion of Reddit, and any feedback is welcome on the video. As a reminder, this is not investment advice or a recommendation to buy Reddit. Thanks.